This is the Rising Tide Startups podcast, where we chat with startup founders from all over the globe to help you escape the cubicle and begin your own startup journey. Make sure you take notes. Every episode of Rising Tide Startups is sponsored by Podbrand Media. Let Podbrand create and host your company branded podcast. Learn more at podbrandmedia.com. This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and I've got a special guest with me today, Scott Cox. Scott, thanks for joining us on Rising Tide.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm really happy to be here and really happy to share my story, and hopefully it helps someone else.
So I think if you actually drove like a pin through the globe, we would be on either sides of that pin right now. So he's sitting in Thailand, I think, 11, 12 hours away from the Eastern U.S. time right now. So
Yep.
it is, it's fairly, mid-morning for me. It's mid-evening, late evening for
night
you.
for me.
Exactly right. So, hey, Scott, if you and I met like at a networking event, how would you introduce yourself to me?
My name is Scott, and I help small business owners escape from their businesses. And, really it's funny I use that line because small business owners really know exactly what that means. Like there's no context needed. But, really what that means is, and we'll kind of get into this, I think, in a little bit, but, I had a business for about a decade and I exited that business. And I exited that business because I figured out how to run that business with very minimal time and effort needed. And I wanted to help my clients do the same thing because I wasn't able to in the format that I was already helping them. And so I had made some drastic changes a couple of years ago, right after I exited that business. And was kind of making these plans at the same time, of course. And, I live this incredible life that I'm truly blessed and lucky for. And, to me, it's just life, right? It's just normal. But I have so many people come to me and they tell me like, oh my gosh, that's my dream life. I wish I could do what you're doing. And I'm like, we'll do it then. Yeah, right. I'm like, do it. You can, like, you want me to help you? I'll help you. But yeah, so that's I help business owners escape their businesses, but in a really good way.
And you're certainly not geographically bound here. So, you mentioned you lived in a number of different places. So, what's been what's kind of like the spark point that says, okay, time to go now. So, what's that little light that goes off in your head that says, I'll be here 3 months, 6 months, a year, or something like that. Time to go somewhere else.
Boredom. When I start getting
That's a great trigger. That's right.
Yeah, when I start getting too used to a place, when I start losing creativity and inspiration, just kind of in life in general. So much of, if you're going to achieve any kind of success, so much of your life has to be routine and it has to be consistency, whether it's health and you're in the gym, whether it's business and you're showing up to meetings, or you're working with remote workers, VAs, any of that kind of stuff. Like you have to show up consistently. And so, what what is one thing that I can change and, be really inspired by, be really motivated by, be excited by is my environment, my scenery. And so, it really depends. I was just in Bali, Indonesia. I know it's very cliche, digital nomad in Bali, but to be honest, I was not with all of the other tourists in South Bali. Or digital nomads. I was in central Bali, and it was a really amazing experience. And I didn't really want to leave Bali because I really felt at home there, believe it or not. But I have other goals. And so those other goals required me to leave and pursue other things in other countries. And so I left. But yeah, that's really just it. It's just, I remember going on vacations before I had this lifestyle. And, you always get to the point at the end of the vacation, you're like, oh, I really don't want to go home. Like I'm having such a good time. I
No
just love
doubt
it.
about it.
It's like the last couple of days of vacation are almost like not as enjoyable because you're just thinking about like the fact that you have to go back to normal life. And I just remember I reached a point in my life where I went on a trip and I didn't have to go home for anything. I could just stay if I wanted to stay. And I was just like, why couldn't my whole life just be like this.
Mm.
And then I thought to myself, I was like, it could. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's do it. So yeah,
Mm.
now it's just whenever I feel like I need to up and move, I move. And I'll tell you what, along the same lines, if I even stay like, so when I go somewhere, I'll really do a lot of research on the ground and try to figure out a good area I want to stay. But
Yep.
for next weekend, I'm taking a 5-day weekend. It's a big holiday right here now in Thailand. It's
Mm-hmm.
New Year actually, and so. I'm taking like a 5-day trip, about 8 hours away, very remote part of Thailand because I can, because I want to, and just to get away from where I'm at, this kind of, bigger city life and get over there and just enjoy nature and quiet, peace, serenity, and just get inspired by something new. So,
Oftentimes, our transitions in business or new products or new ideas, new startups, whatever, they're kind of created out of an itch that the entrepreneur wanted to scratch. So I
yep.
want you to go back to that moment that you kind of had that aha moment that said, "Hey, I need to outsource some of this stuff because or I need to run these processes and operations differently so I can build some of that freedom into my, that lifestyle freedom into my
Yeah.
business startup process." So what was I mean, did you think, man, I just worked 50 hours last week, and I'm tied to this business. So what was that light bulb moment?
Well, I tell you what, I think I'm like most small business owners, or was like most small business owners, especially when we get started out. I did everything myself. My first business was a digital marketing agency. I did everything myself, but I had the thing that might have been a little bit different was me, as I had a very specific vision of what I wanted. See, I had left
Mm-hmm.
a well-paying corporate job, making good money to go make no money and work, the typical 68 hours a week. But I knew that in order for me to get out of that, I needed to start hiring people. Now, my journey again is still very similar to most small business owners. I started out hiring a couple of local, interns to help me out, just really part-time. And then I kept hearing about this remote worker thing, this
Mm-hmm.
VA thing. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this was about a decade ago. So it was not new, but it was, something that a lot of people weren't doing yet. And so I was like, all right, let me try that. Tried it, had some horrible experiences because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was
Yep.
doing and was like, okay, well, this must not be viable. Let me go back. Found a business associate that had a complementary business. We actually opened up an office. We spent the next 2 or 3 years spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on office equipment and in office employees and just all the expenses and stuff that come with that. And then COVID hit
Mm-hmm.
at some point, and we didn't know what the future of not necessarily business, but the future of being in offices and
Mm-hmm.
all of this kind of thing. It's amazing. We were using Zoom before COVID hit, and a lot of people were, but I mean, it's amazing how much COVID like just like, okay, Zoom is now a thing. Like it's a normal business tool where before it wasn't. And so we decided to shut down the office. And with that, I transitioned back into. I had already started, but I transitioned back into using some remote workers, and I had taken what I learned from hiring. I really, really learned a lot about hiring employees in general when I had the in-office employees, and I think that really gave me a great foundation of transitioning back into using remote workers. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I wanted to do that was because here I was a successful business owner. I was making money. I had great clients. We were getting great success. I was still tied to the office.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yep.
Because I had an office and because I had employees. And, you know, every team is different. Every business is different.
Yep.
But really, if you want to lead from the front, you have to be there. Your employees need to see that you're working. Your employees need to see the pace that you set, and you just kind of have to be there when you're in that kind of environment. And so transitioning, I wanted to get away from that. I wanted to start traveling again. I wanted to have my freedom. When I first started the business, I joke, but it's actually kind of true. I was saying, I was making 10 to 20,000 a month in the first few months from in my boxers from home, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was just me. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. And I remember sitting in the office with all these employees and all this stuff going on, having to do payroll tax and all this stuff. And I was just like, I want it to
Got to
be
get better
simpler.
than this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is too
There's a
complicated. I'm
better
happy.
way here.
This is too freaking complicated.
Yeah.
So transition back into utilizing remote workers exclusively. Um, that has its own challenges, of
Hmm.
course, but once you start to figure those things out, you start to really dial in your systems and your processes
Hmm.
and the SOPs, which are probably one of the biggest keys to
Yep.
utilizing remote workers successfully. Then it really becomes an effortless thing. And I mean, I've been working with the same remote workers now for 5, 6, 7 years.
Hmm.
Even through different projects and stuff like that, they're always available to work with. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that's my journey. And I think that's very similar. But I think what happens with a lot of small business owners is they don't have the success, and then they give up. They don't
Hmm.
keep trying. And what we have to realize as small business owners is that most of us are not trained to be business owners. We
Yep.
don't know marketing, we don't know hiring, we don't
Just found
know,
some
all of these
success.
things.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, look, we have to
Yep.
figure out there's nothing wrong with that,
Yep.
but you have to acknowledge it. And then we have to, figure this stuff out. So, yeah, I was
Fine.
just lucky I had enough,
Right.
I had good mentors around me to tell me that and
Yep.
to encourage me to do that.
That
So,
that is, and that's certainly key. I think back of the, I thought that I was going to have to train my VA on the process, and at 15 minutes into the call, it's like she's improving everything that I'm doing,
right.
and I'm like going,
Yeah.
I just stopped and I said, look, I'm bringing nothing to the table here. Not only did she help me improve the processes, she then wrote all the procedure. So
Yep.
I'm like, I kind of
Worth the
forgot
money.
who was running the agency here. So I
Well,
think that
but that
amazing.
thing, that feeling, everyone watching this should realize that that feeling is totally uh perfectly normal, and not only normal, it should be the standard. The whole point of
Mm,
hiring employees in your business, whether in person or remote workers, is to hire people that are better than you at that specific task or function,
no doubt
so that
about it.
you do it at a higher level and actually help your business grow. And I think a lot of times as small business owners, we hire people and then we do exactly what you said. We
Hmm.
think, I got to train them on how to do everything.
Hmm.
And then most of us go even further and just micromanage them the whole
Yep.
time, right? They
Yep.
don't do it good enough.
Yep.
Well, if you're in that situation, you either don't have the systems processes in place, or you're just hiring the wrong people. So you might not
Hmm.
be good at hiring.
Yeah.
But you should
Yeah.
absolutely be hiring people into your business that are better than you and have newer ideas, better ideas, and helping your business grow.
I mean, it was so freeing. I mean, it wasn't disheartening. It
Mhm.
wasn't like I didn't feel challenged or threatened or anything. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean,
Yep.
this is so much, this is going to be so much better than I could even have anticipated. I mean, I didn't
Right.
go through an agency or anything. I literally just
Right.
found some
Yeah.
people off LinkedIn and started interviewing them, one to one.
Yeah.
And amazingly, they've worked out. I haven't had the negative blip yet, but so it's
You
I
just must
yeah,
be a naturally good hirer. Some of us are good managers, some of us are good hirers, and we're usually not the other.
it is funny. I mean, what you said, I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says that. I said, I hire really well. I'm a terrible manager, but I hire really
Right.
well. It's right. And
Yeah, it's
if
like
you can
either
do
one or the
that and
other.
get out of the way, sometimes that works. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
certainly, and I think there's some freedom even for the employee or the VA that says, you know what, you're not watching over my shoulder all the time. You're kind of letting me adopt or adapt this task to my skill set and my work process, and
Yep.
with all while staying within the guidelines of how the work
Yeah.
has to be done. So yeah, it's I I need you to refine a little bit for me. So your consulting service right now is more geared toward just helping people like me just get out of the weeds, type thing.
Yeah.
It's not a VA specific service. You're just utilizing VAs in that service.
Yeah. So my bread and butter is marketing and sales. I
Hmm.
have a lot of corporate sales experience. I have a lot of my own B2C, B2B sales experience. And I've trained a lot of salespeople. And then obviously, like I had the digital marketing agency. I didn't go to school for digital marketing. I mean, obviously, I've taken some Google courses and Facebook courses, but I'm not nothing on. I'm not like a Udemy certified.
Yeah.
You know, I started, like, a lot of this stuff made sense to me as a natural skill set, and I picked it up very quickly and had a lot of success. And so, my shtick, if you want to call it, is small business owners, small businesses need to grow. Okay. And especially when we all know, if you've been a small business owner for any period of time, you know that the scariest moment of being in business is the cycle of income, right? It's when the income's coming in and then it's not, and then it's coming in, it's not. And so what a lot of small business owners struggle with is how to maintain a consistent effort through those different cycles and seasons, because that's what it takes to get out on the other side.
Yeah.
And so the options available, let's say for marketing, for example, you need to have some marketing and you need to have some sales going at all times. And what happens is when the income season is in, business owners tend to overspend, right? They get excited, they overspend, they go, okay, great. Yeah, let's go spend all this extra money on marketing because it's going to work and that's going to carry us to the low season. And then when the low season comes, that doesn't work because they didn't do it consistently long enough. Then they cut it off. Right. And so now they have, they have to let go of employees. They have to sell equipment, or, maybe they're just scraping by, maybe they don't take a salary for a few months. It's just these very dramatic cycles, and every single business goes through it. And the only way that I have found to get through that is to have some consistent marketing and sales. And so obviously, being a marketing agency and working with my clients with their sales teams and stuff at the same time, implementing sales procedures and processes and employees, I just kept seeing this. And as an agency, so many of my clients would come to me during those busy seasons, and then they would leave. They would have success, but then they would leave in the slow seasons because they didn't prepare their business for the slow season, and they didn't have the budget to maybe afford an agency and afford the ad spend and all that kind of stuff in the slow season. And so, I looked at my own business and said, what was I doing that kind of work that kind of got us through that, and got us to some consistent revenue. And it was the fact that I was using remote workers. And because I was using remote workers, my overhead was much, much, much lower. And, obviously I didn't have to hire an agency because, I knew all of this stuff. So I was just telling them to go, do the marketing and sales. And so, I realized that if I can continue doing what I'm doing, but my passion is for small business owners, but we're going to keep hitting the same problem because business owners aren't trained on how to manage and grow business. We're not trained on these basic things, but we're not trained on what it takes to scale from 6 figures to 7 figures. And honestly, unless you're just really bad at running a business, once you get to 7 figures, it kind of gets a lot easier. There's still headaches, there's still problems, but you're not worried about the cycles as much, right? And so I was able to help a lot of my clients scale from that 6 figures to 7 figures. And it was really just because we put together strategies and budgets, honestly, that, they could maintain, I think probably about 6 months, maybe, to a year sometime at that point. I started telling clients when they come to me, I say, hey, let's look at a budget that I think will work for you, but that you could commit to for an entire year, whether it works or not. Right. Like that's how I want you to think about the marketing budget. And so what they would do is they would give me a much lower budget than they initially anticipated. But because they did that, they were able to maintain it for a lot longer. And because they did that, they were able to see like, oh, now we've done 12 months of marketing. We had 30% growth this year. Well, there you go. So it's that lower intensity, but longer term consistency that I found. And so my way of helping small business owners do that is, hey, I can consult with you. I can give you sales. I can give you marketing strategies. I can identify the gaps in those systems for your business, help give you the plan to solve those to grow. But, you also need a team to implement a lot of these things. Even if your team is 1 or 2 VAs. Right. You need a team to implement.
We're going to take a quick ad spot here, just a break for our advertiser and our sponsor. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Scott to really drill down and just speak to the individual listening to this about how he can help you achieve freedom in your business. At Navicus, we know you spend far too much time on administrative tasks. Let us take those off your plate so you can focus on the highest value activities in your business. We have highly trained, highly vetted specialists ready to take on those administrative responsibilities at an affordable and effective rate. Check us out at navicus.com, proud sponsor of Rising Tide Startups podcast. We are back, and I rudely interrupted him in the middle of waxing eloquently about how he could help you because he had already segued into my next segment. But Scott, man, forgive me for that. But thank you for just kind of moving into from the 30,000 foot and view and starting to land this plane for our listeners. So speak directly to those that are kind of in the cube or they have businesses that they're starting or whatever about how, your services can really help them move to that next level.
Yeah. So, like I was saying before, so rudely interrupted.
He almost left, folks. I had to beg him back. That's right.
Not at all. Not at all. But yeah, what it is it's saying, hey, we can put these marketing strategies in place, but you need a team, you need help to implement these. I'm not your implementer anymore. That's not what I do, right? You're not going to pay me, whatever you're going to pay me to have my own team, and I'm not doing that. So what I can do instead is help you build your own team because through the years, I've had a lot of experience working with remote workers, working with VAs. I've trained my own. I've trained hundreds. I've hired hundreds. I've worked with hundreds between my business, my clients' businesses. And I've got testimonials from clients even that say they're like, there's no way we can hire a team of remote workers, VAs. There's just no way we can do it. And then they go, okay, yeah, we actually did it. Like not only do we believe it, but we have a team now. And so it's really cool to be able to see that and do that and actually deliver a solution now to small business owners to where, hey, here's the roadmap, but here's also an affordable and functional way that you can implement this roadmap, even if it's at a smaller level, and start to actually see movement and growth in your business.
Now we talked about a number of different ways that VAs have been utilized, but talk about the most common, like what are the most common tasks that are I know there are different stages, you have to grow into different stages, but what are some of the things early on that you think, hey, these are some really unique ways that I would think about using virtual services if I was running a business, kind of generic, industry.
Yeah, so I'll talk about like some of the most common and I'll talk about maybe some unique. So obviously marketing. I'm a full believer that you cannot hire a one-person marketing team. You have to have different positions, but you got to start somewhere. So hiring someone to help you start implementing your marketing is huge.
Be specific on marketing. Like, are you talking about social media outreach, talking about lead gen? What are you talking about? Is it all the above?
Any of it, yeah, like whatever. So just specific for a general audience. So whatever I can answer this.
It's always a challenge, brother.
Yeah, I can do this. Whatever your strategy is for your business, especially if you're a small business doing six figures, you should have a very specific strategy. We're going to do this kind of media on this platform for this audience, and this is our message that we're going to give to them. If you have drilled down your marketing strategy to be that specific, then you can have a VA come in and implement on that. So whether that's going out, getting leads, emailing those leads, whether that's making TikTok videos. So maybe you're making the videos, recording them on your phone, sending them to a video editor, they're editing them and posting them, whether it's, a blog that you're writing and you're trying to do SEO, whatever the specific strategy is, you can hire someone to implement that. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. As that strategy grows, as your business grows, and you have more profit to invest in your business, that's when you can start hiring other people and say, okay, well, maybe now we're going to have a graphic designer. We're going to start taking our graphics up to the next level. Maybe we're going to hire a copywriter, take our copy to the next level. Whatever it is, depends on your strategy, but that's kind of how that breaks down. Another big common area of your business is bookkeeping and accounting. Bookkeeping and accounting is some of the most expensive business services out there, depending on where you are, where you go, what kind of business you have. You can use VAs for that. Now, you need to make sure you're vetting well and you're doing some training if needed. So maybe you can, let's say you want to hire someone from the Philippines who has accounting experience, but they're not they're not a U.S. person, so they may not know the tax law. You may want to find an accountant to help train them, which is people will do this for you. You can pay them to train your VAs. Usually your tax, your accountant, if you say, hey, I've actually done this. Hey, I have a bookkeeper who's in the Philippines. Can you just tell them can you give me a template of the forms they need to fill out? And, I'll pay a little extra, answer any questions that they have. Boom, boom, boom. All done. Good to go. And you're going to save a ton of money from using a service. So I would say those are probably the two main general areas. Probably another third one would be like assisting, general admin assisting. So
email processing,
calls, mail processing,
LinkedIn messaging,
emails, stuff like that. I would consider lead generation a part of marketing. But that would be another big one. And then let me think if I can some really unique. I don't know if I can come with anything off the top of my head. But I personally, I've used, given my lifestyle, I have international businesses and stuff. I've used VAs, to help me research banks in different countries. It's pretty unique. Hey, I'm looking for a bank that does X, Y, and Z, and they have this, and they need to be able to accept this and stuff. Really, even if you need a personal assistant, you can have a VA be your personal assistant.
Travel assistant, lodging, find lodging, all kinds of things.
If you need HR, you can have some HR. And look, we're talking about small businesses here, right? Like your HR doesn't have to be a formal HR department. It could be someone who's reminding you about employee birthdays, and they're just managing schedules and clock ins and clock outs. And there's just VAs can do anything. And for anyone who's saying, well, maybe I want a copywriter. I don't think I can find a copywriter who can do copy in my style and can write in perfect English in the Philippines. You're probably correct. But with AI and all the AI tools now,
absolutely.
And you don't have to pay $10, $15, $20, $25 an hour for VA. You can pay $5 an hour for a VA who is a decent copywriter, but you give them tools like Grammarly, Hemingway, ChatGPT, and you teach them how to use those tools successfully. They can write better copy than you, I guarantee it, because we'll have more time to do it.
No doubt about it. I'll speak from experience. You are exactly right. And it does seem like, there are VAs in multitude of different countries, but it does seem like the Philippines is such a unique environment. I've only worked with Filipino VAs, but their grasp of the English language just blows me away. Not only do they speak it well, they understand it. They understand the idioms. They understand the little nuances, and I'm thinking I could study a foreign language for the rest of my life and never get to that level. And so, I sorely underestimated their ability to take things on and improve them. I thought it was more like an order taker. It's kind of what I was on.
Well, that's what most people think. And I think that's for a long time how VAs were used. They were used, okay, just go do this thing. And
here's the checklist.
6 steps. And exactly. Just do that and do this over and over and over. And look, VAs are great for that. They're honestly, they are great for inexpensive labor. You could probably go, if you have something that's simple enough to where they're doing the same things over and over and over, you could have a $3 an hour VA doing that. It's not complicated. But
Yep.
you can also go out, spend a few more dollars an hour, and you can have someone who is doing a better job than you at
Mhm.
almost any part of your business.
Yep. I also think the VA industry in the Philippines has improved. I mean, it has just grown because of,
Yeah, well, they have whole
rising
BO,
challenges.
they're called BDI, I think, centers, where it's basically you have VA basically placement agencies, and so they have these like IT parks. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've ever been to the Philippines,
Hmm.
but I lived there for about 6 months, and they have these whole IT parks where they have these massive skyscrapers, all full of just VAs that are working for companies overseas. And
Hmm.
so I don't know exactly what it was that started that, but the Philippines has been used for a very long time. What it was is American and Western country investment
Hmm.
in building companies there is probably what kicked it
Yep.
off. But yeah, no, it's having lived there, look, it's not 100%. English is not their first language,
Hmm.
but
Right.
after traveling Southeast Asia, South America, um, and working with VAs from different parts of the world, yeah, I mean, the Philippines is about as good as it gets when it comes to like
Hmm.
being able to have a plethora of choice of
Hmm.
people that speak English, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've truly been amazed, and I mean, I really enjoy engaging with that industry as well.
Yeah.
So, um,
Well, here's a tip for you guys. If you can think outside the box, you can do a Google search for countries that have uh, majority of English speakers. Um, Start looking at some of those countries. Start going to Facebook and looking up remote workers in whatever country. So, for example, one is Serbia. No one talks about Serbia, but you can go find some decent English speaking
mhm,
Serbians,
mhm,
and they will be cheaper than the Philippines.
mhm. It is,
Believe it or
and I mean that's also, Eastern Europe is also kind of a tech hub as
not.
well. I mean,
Yeah,
highly skilled technical,
yeah,
IT tech
yeah. IT, yeah,
services for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
India's for IT if you know how to
yeah,
vet correctly. Obviously,
for
you want to
sure.
make sure you hire a good worker, but India is good for that. And
Yep.
then I'm actually going to connect with a gentleman here in the next week or so, and he's building an agency, a VA placement agency in South America, which is very
Hmm.
interesting because there's not a lot of people that speak English in South America. And so I'm interested to see what he's got going on over there. If
Hmm.
he's training them on English, if he's just finding them, maybe he's
Yep.
found like a pocket in a country or something. So I'm excited to check that out for sure. So if you
Yep.
guys want to
Lots of
stay in tune
ideas.
with all of that, get more ideas, definitely like connect with me on social, and stuff like that. I'm happy to share, kind of the ins and outs of everything that I'm learning that I know and stuff like that. So for sure.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you just taking the time today and wrap us up with just a closing thought, something we may not have touched on right now that you think would be really helpful to our audience, just from your experience, and then, maybe drill down a little bit more on where the best place to connect with you online is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most powerful thing for me that I want to leave people with is just saying your ideal life starts with you. And it's so cliche, but if you can start to think about what makes you feel fulfilled, what makes you feel content and happy in life, you can have that. And so for me, it was selling all of my stuff in the US. It was, going abroad. And I didn't realize this was a lifestyle. I was just like, I'm gonna go travel and work. And like literally, I had two suitcases and a backpack. That's all I own in the whole
Mm-hmm.
world. That's it. Two suitcases and a backpack. And I was like, I'm just gonna go travel and work and travel and work and just see what happens. And it turns out it's actually a pretty significant lifestyle
Hmm.
change.
Yeah.
Go figure. But it actually suits me because like I said, if I sit in a place too long, I get bored and I get miserable. And
Hmm.
so I need the change of scenery. But for everyone else, it may not be travel. It may be, spending more time with your family. It may be spending more time in your community with, investing in charities, whatever it is that you want to
Less
have more
stress.
life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that you want to have more of in your life, you can actually accomplish it. It takes a lot of work, but it's actually probably not as difficult as you think it is. If you would just make a specific goal, I want to do X, I want my life to look like X, and then you start working towards it every day. Just take little baby steps every day. Make good decisions. Like if you want to be remote and you don't want to have to be stuck to one place, don't have an office with a bunch of employees in it. That's like the first thing, but make smart decisions, keep your overhead low, and grow your business, scale your business, have some patience. For me, I suck at patience, and you can absolutely do it. And if you guys want to follow my journey, follow me. I'm kind of in a lull right now, kind of figuring out the next steps for how we're going to be moving the business forward in my social media presence, because I've been pumping content out there for a year, 2 years, but I really don't like putting my personal life out there.
I get it.
Trying to figure that out. But anyways, if you want to follow me, connect with me, chat with me, I'm definitely open, available on Facebook, Instagram, really everywhere, but Facebook and Instagram are my two main ones. At Nomad Talk is my handle, and that's N0 Mad Talk. So Nomad Talk. And then I have a YouTube channel. You can check out some of my videos on remote working, sales and marketing and stuff like that, and a couple of my lifestyle videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I really appreciate the time, Kevin. I thank everyone for listening who listened, and hopefully that helped. If I appreciate if you guys have any positive comments for me, let me know if any of this made any sense to you. If you have any questions, and if I can help, let me know.
Scott, man, thanks again. I've really enjoyed the chat and just kind of hearing the story, and I really appreciate the fact that you gave a lot of practical advice and steps that business owners can literally put into practice tomorrow if they'll just take the time to do that. And you talked about it being a little, it is front end loaded, but man, it has such long-term benefits down the road. But man, thanks again for just sharing with us today, sharing your story, and just playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Scott, have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
I hope you heard some great takeaways from our guests today. Make sure you reach out to them, and thank you again for playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide.